Welcome to Scrubbed In, the DVM Journey, the podcast where we dive into the wild, rewarding, and sometimes unpredictable world of becoming a Doctor of Veterinary Medicine. I'm your host, Grace Gaynor, a current third-year veterinary student at the Virginia Maryland College of Veterinary Medicine. Whether you're an aspiring vet, a vet student, or just passionate about animals, this is your backstage pass into becoming a DVM. From classroom to clinic, we're sharing the insights, tips, and real-life experiences to help you thrive on your journey to becoming a vet. So scrub in, and let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of Scrubbed In. Today, I'm joined by three incredible emergency veterinarians, Dr. Nicole Cassale, Dr. Nastasia Germain, and Dr. Robyn Hahn, who I've had on the podcast previously, so excited to welcome her back. Today, we will be having a panel discussion on emergency medicine and answering all the common misconceptions that come along with it. So before we begin, can each of you briefly introduce yourselves and why you work in emergency medicine?
Yeah, I'm Dr. Nicole Cassale. I have worked with VEG for a couple of years now. I was also a VEG ambassador in vet school. I worked in the NERD program in VEG Cambridge and then stayed on at Cambridge as a full-time ER doctor. I've always loved emergency medicine, which is why I joined the VEG ambassador program as a student and have loved staying with VEG ever since.
Perfect.
Hi, I'm Dr. Nastasia Germain. I am currently medical director at our VEG Alexandria. I've been in ER and with VEG for a little over 10 years. I always say that ER kind of found me and I just finally gave in. I've always ended up in some emergency, always got called on every critical care, and honestly I think it works for my ADHD. The controlled chaos is what I need, and I, up until taking on medical director role, I'm a night bird, so I loved working nights and overnight weekends, and so that was my jam, and so that was, I think it just fit perfect for my lifestyle.
Hi, and I'm Dr. Robyn Hahn. I am the medical director of VEG Chapel Hill, which opened in September of last year. Prior to that, I was MD at a couple of other Carolinas hospitals, and before that, a doctor on the floor. I've been with VEG over 3 years now, and prior to that, I have done all kinds of different things. I've done ER specialty, I've done community medicine, equine medicine, and GP.
Thank you guys for being here today. I'm so excited to hear more about your ER experience and hopefully address some of those common misconceptions that a lot of students have about ER. First question is, when you tell people that you work in ER, what's their first assumption that they usually make about ER?
They think you're crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I think people think that you just work nights a lot of times.
Yeah.
And I know that there are some ERs that are just like nights and weekends, so that's probably where that idea comes from.
I think I get a lot of like, must be tough. And I'm like, well, I think all medicine is. But it's not just all bad. We help a lot of people. We do a lot of good. I think it's just everyone has their thing. And like I also agree with my counterparts is that they're like, oh, I couldn't do the nightlife. And I was like, I was jamming, but we're a 24-hour hospital. It's like ER happens 24/7, not just at night.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I definitely think I've heard that amongst students too, thinking that, it's all nights, all weekends, or that reaction, oh my goodness, that must be so tough. But you're right, medicine is tough no matter what you're doing. Now we're going to talk about some specific myths. So I'm going to say a statement, and then I'm going to ask you guys a question, if that's really what ER is like or not. Okay. So the first statement is, ER is nonstop adrenaline in critical cases. What does real ER actually look like?
I think real ER are ups, downs, and in-betweens. I think 4 stats can come in, or we have like 4 raisin ingestion, ate the chocolate, 1 single chocolate chip, or did it eat the entire bag? And sometimes we get, it's a nipple. We get some nipple emergencies, tick emergencies, and you're like, I think we get the ear infections. So sometimes what we call like the more boring stuff, depending on if you are adrenaline junkies, but I don't think it's adrenaline all the time, and that's it comes in waves.
Yeah, I think a lot of the cases that we see can be considered more urgent care cases, but you definitely have those stat true emergency cases that come in, and then you'll have those really busy days where you're seeing like 18 to 20 cases, but I also have days where I see 4 to 6 cases, and I sit there and I read a book and I chat with my coworkers and I have a great time. So it really does depend on the day, and it depends on the season.
If you look at the numbers, so as a medical director, I get statistics on basically everything. A high surgical caseload veg is doing 3% of their cases as surgery, which is not a lot, but actually 3% feels like a lot when you're in it. Yeah. And then as far as like inpatient cases and critical cases, I want to say that number is under 20%. So what that means is like 1 in 5 cases is probably the truly sick case, and the other 4 out of 5 are something else, whether that's more like urgent care or not an emergency at all, or something in between. It's just unfortunately how that distribution plays out. In that, like Nastasia said, you could have your 4 stats coming in all at once and then literally have nothing to do the whole rest of the shift.
So myth busted. ER is not non-stop adrenaline in critical cases. Next statement. ER vets don't build relationships with clients or patients. How true is that from your experience? Or not true at all?
I would say 50-50. Right? I think we do see repeat customers. Like here at Veg, people do like us, right? And so sometimes, unfortunately, if you have that lab, we're probably going to see you again soon. Yep. But they come because they had a good experience in their worst time of their day, or we help them do something very simple and they appreciated it. And sometimes something comes in and we wish we send it over to someone and we have no idea what happens. And sometimes we try to find out, did they get to that vet? And if you're in a place long enough, I was with Veg at White Plains was my original. It's where I started at Veg. I was at White Plains for almost 6 years. I had someone come more than once specifically to me to put her cats, she was a cat lady, and to put her cats to sleep because she was just like, I appreciated that she was like, I had the best experience, which is always weird to hear, more compassionate. And so she was like, she would be like, oh, I'm going to go back to Veg for this because even though she did all her GP stuff everywhere else, she would come back and it would be a weird thing. I'm like, oh, she's back again. But it was always like the 20-year-old cat. She did all the things, and then she just felt like that was the best experience, which I was able to give her. Yeah. And so we do, if you're in a place long enough, can end up seeing like the repeat. They have multiple pets, do they come back with their exotics because you treated their pets, and now they're going to tell the other, the family members come like, oh, you saw my aunt, so I came. So sometimes it depends on like your longevity at the place. So you can't, in a way, have these experiences, but yes, sometimes things come. They go somewhere and we have no idea what happens. Sometimes we try to find out when we do, and sometimes it just goes up to mystery land.
Yeah. And even when I was in GP, I mean, you definitely have some people, like they come for their annual, they're not really there to build a relationship with you, and you don't know them at all, even though you've seen them multiple times, where on the opposite, we had, soon after opening, we had a dog named Chloe with pancreatitis, and because people can stay with their pets the whole time, they were in room 3 for 5 full days. And so this couple and their dog spent 5 days with us. Like, we got to know them very, very well, and really develop a deep relationship with them. We learned all about their kids and their grandkids, and they got to meet like many of the doctors and nurses on the different shifts. And they've come back several times for fun visits, like just to bring Chloe back and bring us like donuts or something. So I feel like even in GP, even though
that's very true,
you see them more frequently, there are some people that are just, for whatever reason, they're just busy or not interested or whatever. They don't build a relationship with you anyway. So I feel like it's more dependent on the person in the case than it is the fact that it's ER versus GP.
Yeah, I also think it depends on the kind of doctor you are too. Like, I definitely take the time out of my day to, follow up on my surgical patients, and I will go ahead and call to make sure everything's okay. And I have a lot of clients that come back just to come say hi and bring their dogs in for treats. And I agree, the fact that veg is open concept and, owners can stay with their animals the whole time, I think it helps you build more of a relationship with that client. I just think the openness really helps. So I think I have a lot of clients come back.
Yeah, that's super cool. So, sounds like this one's busted too. ER vets absolutely have the ability to build relationships with clients, and maybe in some circumstances more so than a general practitioner. Next statement, ER is emotionally harder than other areas of veterinary medicine. Do you agree or not?
I mean, different, but I wouldn't necessarily say more or less difficult, because I can say that having spent a chunk of the middle of my career in GP, it's really hard to see that pet from puppy to euthanasia, right? Like, for those customers that you have developed a relationship with, that's a special kind of pain. But also no less pain than euthanizing a pet on ER that you've just met, but the whole family is just bereft. Especially if it's a true emergency, like not something that they saw coming. And I think the opposite is true too. The highs can be just the same. Like, the dog whose life you save, is a great high, a great high, and it's that same kind of feeling as when you have, other kinds of vet med where you have those positive experiences with the client over time.
Yeah, I think every area of vet med is going to have its difficulties and its highs, so I don't think it's fair to say that, emergency medicine is the hardest or the most traumatic or the most emotionally distressing. You're going to have those days, but, I think that's probably true for anybody in veterinary medicine overall.
Yeah, I think ER is hard, and ER can be tough. You're sometimes not seeing people at their best and at their worst points. Most people aren't looking forward to seeing you. They're not like, man, I can't wait to see the ER doctor today.
Right.
But I think of it like, I think it's hard to be an oncologist.
Yeah.
Like, I could only imagine having to tell people, like, they do help so many people, but I feel like they're the extreme optimists, right? They're going to save this.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I don't know if I could do that, I did GP for 8 months, and I have not looked back and don't plan to, because that was just too much for me. I was like, for a lot of it was, I truly am a night bird, and I was like, I don't want to be awake, and I don't want to explain food allergies more than I need to, so I'm like, bring it on to be on the overnights, bring it on. Like, I was like, a weekend is any other day. But I think it's a big personality. Like, for me, it really suited me. So if it's not for everyone, and it can be really hard, and it does have different emotional capacity, but I think everyone finds what's great for them. There's so many different personalities at Veg. We're 24 hours, so we have so many different shifts. And everyone has different personalities. Like, we're not all one person, and I think that's it too, is that you have to really find what makes you happy outside of work too. And I think that's it, is finding that. I don't say the work balance is like a 50-50, but like, finding that, yes, there's going to be bad, but I focus on the good you do. And I think that's what I try to do, is think of all the good I do, even like I said, when people are at their worst, that they can be there with their pets those last few hours. They can stay there as long as they want. And that makes a big difference when it feels not so cold. So.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I definitely agree. Working in oncology sounds so difficult, so definitely pros and cons. I like that you mentioned your personality, knowing things that are going to fill your cup. If you like, saving lives and things like that, kind of high stakes cases, but for me personally, I would think it's really difficult to see. I mean, I worked as a tech in GP. Seeing patients from a puppy to an adult and having to put them down is so difficult. So definitely pros and cons, different parts of veterinary medicine. Next statement, which we've kind of talked about, but I'd love to talk about this more. The statement is, ER can have a good work-life balance, but working overnights is really difficult. How bad is working overnight really?
Don't ask me. I loved it. If there was
You start because you love it.
If there was an overnight medical director job, I've signed me up. I don't believe anyone should be awake before noon. And so, again, I do have insomnia, so I think I'm up anyway. So if I'm going to be up, I'm going to be productive about it. When relationship-wise, it didn't really affect me. My husband, now then boyfriend, he did a lot of overnight security, so I felt our shifts were pretty similar.
Yeah.
And I guess for me, I'm like, anything I can do on a weekend, there's 2 for Tuesdays, I could do it, I think I found things, and so it wasn't, and I'm from a big family too, so it wasn't like I didn't go to the family options. I'm the oldest. I have 8 sisters, 3 brothers. There's always someone celebrating something.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like I was missing out, and so I think it was, they knew like, hey, I'm usually worked every other Sunday or whatever, so like I think people just made, not exceptions, but they like, you're either going to have friends and family that work around you, or you aren't. I think that's a thing in any point of your life. But like, for me, when I was like, I didn't love morning shifts, like I was like, this is the worst, and like other people, like that's their jam, like they function the best, and I think people have different circadian rhythms.
Yes,
and like I know my night people are out there all the same time, and then there's people who they live in the swings. And then, but can I do a day? Of course I can. I want my colleagues to have days off, if we all work one, then who's covering the rest? So I think there's a balance. I think it's just, again, with that myth that it's like just the overnights, but I think that even if it's a couple of my doctors now maybe work 3 or 4 realistically out of their shifts an overnight.
That's super reasonable.
And one of them does only overnights because per her request. No one's fighting her for those shifts. So, so again, there's usually, we're out here. The night people are out here. You just got to find us. Yeah.
I am not a fan of overnights. And never have been. My sweet spot was, when I worked in Charlotte, we had a 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. shift, and that was amazing because you were not inpatient. You were just seeing all the outpatients, and you were done at a reasonable time. Yeah. It was like we called it the princess shift, and it was my favorite. I have worked many nights. The vibe is different.
Definitely.
And that is enjoyable. It's just my circadian rhythm does not. Like, I am just a zombie after a few overnight shifts. But I do enjoy the vibe of the night shift, I think.
Night shift is a vibe.
Yeah. Now that I'm more in leadership, it's definitely days, right? Yeah. That's when everything is open. But I do actually prefer to work on weekends. Same thing. Yeah. Like, if I'm going to go out and do something, I'd rather do it when there's no crowds. Yeah. So I never have to fight people on on a Tuesday to go to the museum or whatever. And if I'm going to give up my day for work, I want to be busy. Right. And weekends are the busiest. Right. So I tend to love Sundays. Like, I'm a Sunday, Monday girl, and then I have my day off every week on Tuesday. So, the weekend part has never bothered me.
Yeah. Specifically in our hospital, we work on a rotating schedule, so we all work 4 to 5 nights a month. We never have the same schedule. So I try to group mine. Like, I'll either do 4 overnights in a row, or I'll do 3 overnights and then a few days off, and then I'll do 2 overnights. I really do enjoy an overnight, but I will say my life shuts down when I'm on overnights. Like, I go do my overnight and then I sleep and I don't function. I'm a swing shift girly. I love a late swing shift. That's when I'm really functional. But I definitely try to make the time to, like, get my meal prepping done, get my workouts in before I go to my night shifts, try to be a little bit functional. But like they said, night shift is a different beast. The people are different. The vibe is different. Like, you go in, you have your awesome night shift team. Like, it's a good time. A night shift is a fun time to be in the hospital.
I think I learned a lot of being an individual, not in like a bad way. I think like a lot of stuff happened. There's nowhere to transfer things usually to. Like your option is you got to figure it out. The team is here. And you just, because even if like right now, I think if you transfer it, you're transferring it to probably another ER doctor. So like you just have another you doing this. So I feel like I got a lot of more of exposure to procedures and gained the confidence because I just had to. And so I feel like it pushed me to be more confident as a doctor, where I think because usually leadership, especially like myself now, I'm usually there during the day. I do some late nights because I want to see my night people, and I do rotate my shifts even as a medical director. But there's usually more leadership, and I would say like when I was an ER doctor, I'd be like, I can't wait for leadership to leave. And now I am leadership.
You never want to leave.
And now, now they're telling me, like, when are you out of here? I was like, oh man, when did I become the other side? But like, I still try to, like, I live in the swing shift for that. I'm there Sunday, Mondays, because that's when we have most of the staff. We're the busiest, so I see most of my people. I can get to know them because I still want to have that connection with my team, the techs, the assistants, and see all the things and be there. That's when they're most likely going to have surgery, so they're most likely going to want help. And so, I think it's just, if you can do it and it won't hurt your circadian rhythm too much, a couple night shifts, I think everybody learns so much, and it kind of like forces you to step out comfort zones that maybe you would otherwise be like, oh, this person's got it, oh, maybe we'll just send it away and things like that. And so I think it just helped me, molded me to be a good doctor.
So to summarize, you can do an overnight and you can be okay, and it sounds like you have a lot of different people working for you. Some people prefer overnights, so it kind of depends on your circadian rhythm and what suits you and your lifestyle. Next statement, I like this one a lot, and this is a common misconception I feel like a lot of people have, so I'm interested to see what you guys have to say. The statement is, ER burns everyone out eventually. What determines longevity in emergency medicine?
I think what determines longevity in emergency medicine is a blanket, is being happy and fulfilled in your job, right? So you can work GP and burn out. You can work ER and burn out. Some of that is, if you feel micromanaged, or if you feel the opposite, unsupported, if you feel like your concerns are not validated, all of those are things that I think lead to burnout and just dissatisfaction in general with veterinary medicine. And I've encountered all of those things in several different jobs, so both ER and GP. And then there's other things too, like in community medicine, lack of resources and funds. That's a big driver, where you want to do all the things and there's just no money to do that. I just think there's so many factors that build into that, and it's not just because it's ER, right? It's not just the fast pace or the acuity of the cases or whatever. I think it has to do more with how you feel supported generally as a human being in your job.
Like, I would say I'm very similar. It's like fulfillment, happiness. Like, I think the one time that I do feel like I was starting to feel burnout, and I don't necessarily say it was because it was ER, it was probably working during COVID. And it was more, I want to say it's like a lot of external. It was like the external world, the people coming in, and the kind of like the stress of the outside world. I lost people. We saw, and like, we lost colleagues. We had like a vet that was in the community forever passed from COVID, and then taking on that, we were like, and being in ER, we were like one of the few people open. So yes, it was numbers, and I think it was a lot of just, obviously society was wild back then, right? We had no idea what was going on, and we were just trying our fucking best. Sorry. And so I think it was more like there seemed to be no end externally and internally. So I think it was also all the outside world stuff also, and one of the things I was just seeing all the things. We are very high volume at White Plains, and so yes, I think it was a combination that I was like, I don't know what's going to break first, But then I was like, but I don't know if I truly want, like I took a step back. My husband was like, well, do you not want to be an ER doctor? I was like, I don't think I want to do anything else, but I don't know if I want to keep doing it like this. And it had nothing to do with my job at the place, because I felt we got people in as when we could. We did all the things. We were like, again, we supported each other as much as we could. And so it was really weird. I was like, I don't know, like, what does this take me? Do I need a break? And I think I went to my MD. I was like, I'm not well, and I don't know what the answer is, but I think I need to just not work for a little bit. And it literally, that was like 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks. That was what I did. I was like, I need to not work for 2 weeks. And then I'd have a problem because I still was like, what you guys doing over there? What's happening? But I just like being able to just be home, my version of declutter, just not have to go and not think about that, not think of someone yelling at me. I'm sure we all went through it at different stages, and that being able to go to them, which I'm sure he wasn't happy at the time to take me off 2 weeks because I was a night person. But I was given those time, and I went back, and I'm still in ER, so I think that's like, I would still be able to feel supported in a time where I was like, I hope this isn't going to be the reason I lose my job, because I just don't know what's happening. So it's really hard to say in regards. I know that statistically, I think even in human ER, the burnout is about 6 to 10 years, I think, even in human medicine. But then people who are in human medicine ER their whole career. So I think it's just figuring it out. And sometimes it's just we have things that are just meant for that in that time. I think everything's meant for a reason. So sometimes you're only meant to be in that ER for the 5 years, and maybe you need a new thing for your life. So
yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm still very young in emergency medicine. But like, I have days off, and I'm like, I wish I was at work right now. Like, my staff thinks I have a problem, or like I leave work and I'm like, are you sure you guys don't need me to stay? Like, I truly love my job, and I hope I never lose that feeling. Like, that's when I'm really gonna feel that, like, that's what burnout means to me, is if I lose that happiness feeling in my job. And I agree with Robyn that there's so many things that can impact that, like your support staff, your leadership, finances. I mean, truly, there's so many things that play into that. And so being able to have your support staff be there, being able to have your leadership there, and your outside resources too, like your family, your community, being able to take a step away from work and doing things that make you happy outside of your job too, I think is really important. So there's a lot of things that play into it, and obviously I'm hoping I never get burnt out from ER. This is something that I plan on doing for a very long time. But
no, I appreciate your perspective, and I think it seems like it's multifactorial. Like many diseases in vet med, burnout is not usually attributed to just one thing. It can be a big picture thing. It could be multiple things. Support system was brought up. Leadership was brought up. Support staff as well. So I think that burnout is definitely something that we're all concerned about as veterinarians, but it can't be just attributed to ER specifically, just as a whole. It's little things in between. Next statement, ER vets are just in it for the money. Where do you think this misconception comes from?
Well, I've heard that statement about just veterinarians in general.
Yeah.
Like, don't look at Facebook and Instagram comments ever.
Yeah.
I mean, ER is the highest paid of the, subspecialties, whatever, within veterinary medicine, and I think it's because it is more physically demanding and because of the nights and weekends. And it's just, a function of its emergencies are more expensive, and so that money trickles down that way. But I don't think I know anybody who's in it specifically because it pays more. That's just a nice little side perk.
Yeah. I think it's been, like you said, I agree, it's vet med in general. But I think it's hard because ER isn't something in vet med that people prepare for. Versus ER and human med, if we try to go correlations, we go in, insured or not insured, you're getting covered. If you never pay, someone's covering that hospital. From a business aspect, we're paid. Like I have to pay my employees. I have to keep the lights on. I do pay the rent. I buy the food, the electricity, the medicine costs money. We're not buying in trillions of bottles. I'm buying like 5 bottles, and so there's no pharmacy handouts that people think we have. I'm still looking for these handouts. I don't have them. And so it is coming from, and like I grew up, where if someone potentially had access to drop 10 grand, we probably didn't have that for ourselves. So like that's a hard number to hear. And, so I think that it comes in where we do need the money up front, because that's the only way I will continue to have the rest of us. And things cost money, and it's hard, because I think if any of us we're in a capitalist nation, like realistically, if I could do this and lived a life, go on my vacations, live the dream, go in, I'm a nail girly, I like to get my nails done. I can't be like, oh, well, you love nails so much, you want to just do this for free? They're going to be like, please hand me my dollars. I think it's just hard, because then we get like, well, it's because you don't love animals. And I'm like, no, I do, but I also have rent to pay. And I think it's just really tough. And I do understand as well that it is hard. And I think at Veg, at least, we have certain things like GSAP, and we try to help as much as we can. But there's nonprofit organizations need people to help them. Like we talked about community medicine, like we're doing the best we can with what we have, what the medication and things, and we have limits. Even with all the money, sometimes we can't save everything. So I think it's just a really hard to know where it came from. But we do, unfortunately, I think it's that we are in a position that we do need that money up front, and it is hard to tell someone that. But it's not because we're not all about money, it's just the reality of our existence.
Yeah. And, I think a lot of us go into emergency because, we love to see a little bit of everything. We love the fast pace. We love that we get to do surgery and procedures and things along those lines. And, it's great that, maybe we make a little bit more money than a general practitioner, sure, but that's not the reason that we went into emergency medicine. And I think, when you're going and presenting those estimates to owners, there's a lot of sticker shock there where, people just don't realize what the actual cost of care is. Not everybody has pet insurance. A lot of people have health insurance for themselves, but people don't have pet insurance all the time, and they don't realize what blood work costs. They don't realize what x-rays cost. They don't realize what a laceration repair costs. A foreign body surgery is $6,000 to $10,000 sometimes. That's a lot of money, and I think sometimes they take that anger out saying, that they think that money is going in your pocket, and that money is going to the hospital, that money is going to the resources. So that's a huge part of it too, is them just sometimes not understanding where those costs are coming from and where exactly that money is going. But medicine is expensive. Medicine is really expensive.
I have had I've had major surgery, and I will challenge anyone to look at their pre-insurance bill. They sent that bill to me, and I was like, whoa, I will never stop working the rest of my life. And I was like, I looked at that number, and I can say that my recovery, where I was just put in a room and I felt like someone did some vitals, and I was like, and it was just for 2 hours was $4,000. That's 3 days sometime in our hospital. So I think when we see, I paid my $200 copay, it is expensive, and we're not even, so it's just, we have the luxury that maybe one day that will happen. We don't know, for good or for bad. But I think that's the big where it came from. It's just like, well, if I took my child to them, they would just do all these things. And I'm like, yes, the government supplies that. The government isn't, unfortunately. So we'd love them too, but that's nonprofit, and then you're doing, and that's what we get. So I think it's just, and I think medicine has changed in vet med. We have evolved. We're doing so much more. Pain control has improved. Like what we can offer has, it's improved, and we're out there. I think people still sometimes try to barter. Every now and then I've had someone's like, what if I swept twice a day? And I'm like, I don't need you to do that. It's okay. You can just take the meds. I have people like who like, or will, they're like, oh, this used to cost this much. But I mean, lots of things used to cost a lot differently. Milk was maybe $1, and it's like, what, $5 maybe now for, so I think it's just what my counterpart said. It is a lot to get when you're already worried and stressed, and people don't want to seem like bad owners. So I think sometimes, and I don't think that makes them bad owner. I couldn't afford some things, or even if I could, I think emotionally I don't know what I would do for my pets differently. So I just think we need to work on having which I like at Veg is that we can have a discussion, and we can, what we say, give stuff away for free. We can work with someone like, okay, if surgery's $5,000, they're like, I have 45. Okay, I can work with that, and we, at least with our company, we have the ability to do that all within reason and help people and meet them where they are. And like, what does the pet really need? Do they just need comfort? Do they need, like things like that? And so I think as we continue, it's just keeping the communication open.
Yeah. I love that you challenge people to go look at their own medical bills, because I too have had surgery, and looking at that cost, astronomical. My dad sat me down one day and he was like, this is human health insurance. Like, I want you to understand, like, this is how much this surgery costs. This is how much we had to pay, and understand the delta. Because it is humongous, and I almost choked when I saw that. It was so mind-blowing, and I think that there is just like a misconception about that, and we don't really understand that. But if you do go and look at those bills and see what your insurance is paying, you're going to be so surprised. So I like that challenge. I hope you guys will. Hopefully you don't have any
you don't need to.
major surgeries or anything like that, but just looking at how much some things cost. The next thing I want to talk about is personalities and how people fit in ER. I think there's a misconception that only a certain type of person can do ER. So in y'all's opinion, what kinds of personalities actually thrive and are conducive to working in ER medicine?
I think you have to be a little crazy. Just a little, not too crazy. I feel like we all have our own version of crazy. I like what I call the controlled chaos. I like that I don't know what's going to come in, but everything kind of has a rhythm, right? They come in, I'm going to do their TPR, I'm going to do this. If a stat comes in, I'm going to assess it, I'm going to place a catheter, and we're going to go through, like, a GDV is a GDV, but hemoabdomen is a hemoabdomen. Vomiting is anything. If you look up your differentials for vomiting, you have 12 pages of differentials. And I feel like it keeps my brain busy, and so I do like busy. I think when some people think you have to be either like really hard or really stern, or you have to be super bubbly, I think all the above are there. I think it's just finding your people. I think that's just finding your place and finding your people. I don't know if there's like what people think the personality is, but I feel like being called crazy, but like in a good crazy, like Lady Gaga crazy. I don't know. We're different, but so is, I feel like in anything you have so many different personalities. I don't know what people think my
I don't know either. So
I'd be interested to know what people are saying out there.
Just opening the hospital in Chapel Hill in September, so I hired 7 doctors, and no 2 of them are alike. I've got some that are very outgoing and very extroverted. I've got a couple who are more introverted and like nerdy. Some that are like just super good with people, like really conversational, and some that are a little more like here's the facts kind of thing. And I think they all thrive. Like, there's a place for everybody in that. I used to be super extroverted, and as I age, I get more and more introverted and want to just be in my own little bubble. And so I don't know, I also don't know what that one what that one personality type is. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think two of the big things is that you have to be adaptable. Like, you have to be okay with the chaos. You have to be okay with, never knowing what's going to walk in the door, and okay with all of the change that's going on, and definitely being okay communicating and talking to people. You don't need to be the most bubbly, happy person in the world, but especially at Veg, you need to be comfortable being in front of people and talking to people all of the time. Like we talked about before, we're all open concepts, so everyone's seeing what you're doing. You're constantly talking them through every step of what's happening. So communication is a huge part of our job, and being able to talk to people, I think, is really important.
Yeah. I love that you guys answered like that, because I had someone on the podcast last week who's actually our ER clinician for our school, and she basically said exactly what you guys said, which is that there's no one personality. And I think that a lot of students think that there is. Like, this other clinician, her name's Dr. Connor, she was saying, if you are someone that thinks that you're going to freeze in an emergency, she's like, I can teach you how to not freeze. I can teach you how to be more adaptable. I can teach you to do these things, but you have to bring, your own personality into it as well. And so I think that it is a common misconception that people have, that you have to be someone that doesn't freeze in an emergency, or you have to be really bubbly or whatever. But I mean, that's what makes a good team, right? Is having all of those different people who have strengths and weaknesses come together. And so I love that you guys mentioned that. There is no one personality that is best for ER. You heard it here. Wrapping up, I've got a few more questions. If a student is scared of ER because of what they've heard, some of these common misconceptions that we just talked about, what would you want them to know?
That is normal. ER can be terrifying the first time. I remember my first year in ER as a clinician, like my clinical year, and a dog came in not looking right. And I remember it was a collie, Angel Eyes the Thirds. I remember it because it was the third Angel Eyes. They liked that name so much. And it went from door, table, vent. And I said, how did they knew that a vent was needed? And I'm still writing the TPR down. They have passed me, and I was like, this is crazy. And I was like, there's no way I can be able to do that. And then my first rotation as an intern, I did a rotating internship, was overnight ERs. And we were supposed to do a C1 kind of thing. And they were like, it's busy. Get to it. And I was like, whoa, we skipped some steps here. And I was like, okay. And I was like, all right, I have a very eldest daughter. So I was like, all right, we're going to do this. We're going to go in, and you're just going to say it, and you're just going to pretend. And you pretend until it becomes real. And it is okay. I looked at Vin, I asked people questions, and it's also okay to say, you know what? I'm going to pause for a second. I want to make sure I give you the right information. And I will come back, I'm like, I don't know the hell is happening right now. And I phone a friend. If I have someone else, I'm on Vin. I'm in the books. I'm looking in my little small emergency medicine. I have all the tabs open. My people laugh at my tabs all the time. But I think it just at some point, I think I look back and I remember the first time I looked at something and I was like, this is it, this. And then someone, and I had a nerd was like, wow, how'd you figure that out so fast? And I was like, I just do that. Yeah. And but I was just like, but I remember I was the outside. You don't know when it happens, when you're just like, I got it. I don't know when the turning point was. When I was like, this is pericardial effusion as soon as it walks in the door. But I know a year ago, I was like, you want me to do what? The first time I did surgeries. Obviously I was intern trained, so we weren't really primary surgeries. Everything went to the surgeon. So I remember my colleague, she was like, I'm going to come in. I would call her in to do splenectomies. I was terrified of them. And she finally came in. She was like, I'm going to come in, but you're doing this surgery, and I'm just going to stand here. And I was like, no, that's not how this works. And now, honestly, I love a humerabdomen. I love a splenectomy. I'll take that over GDVs. GDVs are not my jam, but that was hers, so we would tap each other in. But if I had to, I was like, I know I could. And so I think it's just figuring out. You figure out your role. And one day it just clicks. You don't know when it happens, and you just ride that wave. I don't know. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I think that early in your career, regardless of what type of medicine you're doing, having good mentorship, whether that is a formal program like VEG, whether that's a true internship, whether that is you're working GP, but the practice owner you're gonna shadow them for the first few months, or like whatever that looks like. Good mentorship is the way to not have that like paralyzing fear that you don't know what you're doing. And then what has always helped me in an ER where I don't know what's going on, which still happens, is I just think of what is the next step. Like, what is the next step? It comes in the door, it needs a catheter. What is the next step? I'm going to get a big 4. What is the next step? I'm going to start fluids. Like, the next step, usually you can think of the next step. You might not be able to think 5 steps down the road yet. Until you've had many years under your belt, but you can usually come up with the next step. Yeah. And eventually the next step leads you the right way. Yeah. And then eventually you see it coming in and you're like, oh yeah, that's a hemo ab. And it's barely gotten through the double doors yet. So
and it's probably not the history you think of. And they're like, yeah, he's limping and his carprofen isn't working. And I'm like,
I can't tell you how many times it's been like, my dog is down behind. And it's like,
and they're
that's
like,
not a bad dog.
And they're like,
that's
it's limping. We're going to put it in a room. And I'm like, no, I need to scan this dog now. And they're like, he just stopped eating this morning. You're like, cool. Yeah. And versus like you're so used to it. I think it's just, you start seeing different patterns too. And like, based on your locations, what you're going to get more comfortable with. I went to St. George's. I feel like I came back and I thought everything was going to have Ehrlichia.
I went to NC State. Everything does have Ehrlichia. Or Lyme.
And then I went to New York, and I was like, I did my clinics in Georgia, and I was like, is it a snake bite? And they was like, we're in Midtown Manhattan. I was like, all right, start over. I was like, I had to almost like reset. I was like, I got used to things, and I was like, oh, I have to retrain my brain again. And so even when you get comfortable, depending where you go, you end up uncomfortable again and having to retrain.
Yeah. I mean, I was just a student a few years ago, and looking back where I was a few years ago, I have learned so much. I've gotten the opportunity to train nerds, and I always tell them that they're so much smarter than they think they are. They have so many resources. Like, I have had the most amazing mentors, and you have so many more resources than you think you do. Anytime I've ever needed anything, I hop on the phone with my medical director. I hop on the phone with one of our other doctors. We have so many resources in our drive that we need. I just had a student with me, and we had a traumatic fall from a parking garage that had a TBI and a hemo ab, and she was terrified, and she was doing an auto transfusion on the dog, and I was like, just take a step back and look at what you're doing right now. I was like, this is so cool. You are doing an auto transfusion on a dog right now. I was like, put your rose-colored glasses on right now. Your job is so cool. And sometimes you just have to take a step back and be like, wow, this is actually amazing, and you are so smart. So
I love that. We can do it.
ER is so much fun.
I love that.
Shameless plug.
One final question. How would you describe ER in one word?
For me, I would say fulfilling.
That was gonna be
Damn, I took your word.
I'll change mine.
We can also share the word.
I'll think of something else.
Crazy.
In a good way.
I know. It just reminds me of what you were talking about earlier. People thinking you're crazy when you tell them that you work in ER.
I don't know. Just fun.
Yeah. I'm gonna say happy. It's like
wow, these are such positive, happy, good words. I love it. Oh wow. Well, for anyone out there who's interested in ER, I hope that this was helpful. I hope you learned a little bit more about what working in ER looks like, but it may not be exactly what you expected, but I think that we are so lucky to be in a profession where we can really keep our options open, and so as long as you have an open mind, there are so many things that you can do as a veterinarian. And like you said, put your rose-colored glasses on, enjoy the moment, and don't limit yourself just because you've heard that ER might be hard or scary. It doesn't mean you can't do it. You got 3 examples right here. So thank you guys so much for joining me today for this podcast. I really enjoyed interviewing you guys, and I really appreciate your time. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
My name is Grace Gaynor, and I just interviewed Dr. Cassale, Dr. Germain, and Dr. Hahn, and we are
Scrubbing out.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Scrubbed In, the DVM Journey. Thanks for tuning in and being a part of our community of future vets and animal lovers. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. It helps others find the show and join the conversation. And if you have any questions or topics you'd love to hear about, feel free to leave us a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep scrubbing in, and remember, the journey to becoming a DVM is one step at a time.